This is an oak tree that has been trained to produce edible mushrooms, but it's not the only thing I can do to this oak. I can also prune it into something with even more character, which is what I'll show you in today's episode. As an arborist, I get asked every day to help diagnose tree problems, and many of those problems come from pruning. Some people try to prune branches off while the tree is dormant and break off branches trying to do so. Others wait until late summer to prune and remove too much foliage, stressing out their tree. Then there's people like me who prune any chance they get, but we still make mistakes sometimes. Today's video is about one of my favorite yet risky pruning techniques called defoliation or leaf pruning. The goal of this technique is to remove all or most of the leaves from the tree. Now, if you watch my videos often, you may know that I usually advise against pruning off big limbs and trunks larger than 2 inches in diameter because you can't prune them back far enough without damaging the tree. However, this technique doesn't fall under typical pruning methods because you're not pruning off branches. You're pruning the leaves of the tree. In theory, it sounds simple, but there are a lot of things you have to consider before doing it. And if you don't do your homework, you could easily kill your tree. For example, you need to know exactly what type of tree you're dealing with and how it responds to pruning. If you prune off all the leaves of a sycamore tree, you'll end up killing it. Most maples are okay with defoliation, but some cultivars like Japanese maples don't tolerate it very well. Evergreens are also hard to recover from defoliation, and it's not recommended to do it on conifers unless it's an extreme case. With that said, the tree I'm going to demonstrate on today is a European white oak, which tolerates defoliation extremely well. Another thing to keep in mind with defoliation is that you want to do it on a young tree if possible. A mature tree will be harder to recover from defoliation, but again, it depends on the tree species. Oaks are pretty resilient and you can do it on bigger trees. However, it's always best to do it sooner rather than later. Defoliation works by forcing the tree to regrow all its leaves and small branches in one growing season. So if it's a young tree, it'll have no problem catching up from such a big pruning event. Also, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, why not just do it on a grafted tree? Well, stop it. Don't do that, please. You're going to kill your tree. Grafted trees are already stressed out from being grafted in the first place. Adding extra stress like defoliation will kill the tree. That's why grafted fruit trees usually have a short lifespan compared to seedling trees. They're pruned hard when they're young to force them to grow a certain way. After that, they're kept in check with regular pruning, and that's it. However, there is one major benefit to doing it on a grafted tree, and that's the fact that you can start defoliating it as soon as it starts growing in the spring. For seedling trees, it's better to wait until it's older and then do it in late spring or early summer after the tree has stopped growing for the winter. With grafted trees, you can do it whenever you want as long as it's actively growing. Now, why would you want to prune off all the leaves? What's the point? Well, there are several reasons why you might want to do it, but the main reason why I do it is for ramification. Defoliation encourages the tree to grow smaller leaves and increase branching, which gives the tree more detail and refinement. Some tree lovers really enjoy the look of a tree with smaller leaves. And if you've ever seen an oak tree grown for edible mushrooms, you'll see how detailed and intricate these trees can get. Another great reason for doing defoliation is if you're training a tree for bonsai. Bonsai trees are constantly being defoliated in order to keep the tree small and the leaves nice and compact. Defoliation is also used for trees in the landscape to keep them small and manageable. There are some shade trees that grow extremely large and wide. And if you live in an urban area, it's best to keep them small to prevent them from hitting power lines and buildings. Even though some people say you shouldn't prune trees in the summer, defoliation is a perfect way to shape trees that are too large and unruly for the space they were replanted in. The last reason why you would want to defoliate a tree is if it has a disease that affects the leaves. If the leaves are severely infected, the best thing to do is prune them all off so the tree can grow new, healthy leaves. Now, some diseases will affect the branches and trunk, and you'll have to do more than just defoliate. But if the disease is only affecting the leaves, then it's a good candidate for defoliation. Now that you know why you would want to defoliate a tree, let's talk about how you actually do it. It's pretty simple. You just cut off all the leaves. But there are some things you need to keep in mind. First of all, use sharp tools to avoid tearing the branches. Tearing branches will cause them to ooze sap, which can lead to decay and branch deback. Also, if you do it on a larger tree, it's best to do it over multiple years. Don't take off all the leaves in one pruning event. Do it over a few years so the tree can adjust and get used to it. For younger trees, it's fine to take off all the leaves in 1 year, but again, it depends on the species of the tree. If you're not sure if you can do it in 1 year, it is best to err on the side of caution and take off 2/3 of the leaves instead of all of them. When you do defoliate, make sure you leave some leaves on. The tree needs some leaves to photosynthesize and grow. If you take off all the leaves, the tree will starve because it won't have any food. Another thing to keep in mind is that after you defoliate, the tree will grow back leaves that are much larger than normal. These leaves will be called sucker leaves, and they're a normal part of the process. The first round of leaves after defoliation is going to be ugly, but the next round will look even better. The leaves will be smaller and more refined. It takes 2 rounds of growth to get back to normal size. So don't be alarmed if the first round of leaves are huge. It's totally normal. If you don't live in a warm climate, it's important to remember that if you defoliate late in the summer, the tree won't have enough time to regrow all its leaves before the temperatures drop. The tree will enter winter dormancy with no leaves and could potentially die from cold damage. It is best to defoliate in late spring or early summer so the tree has plenty of time to grow back its leaves. But now let's answer the question we've all been waiting for. Can I fertilize after defoliation? The answer is no. Never fertilize after defoliation. It's going to burn the tree. The new leaves that grow out will be much smaller than the old ones, and you LL think that the tree is nutrient deficient. If you fertilize, the new small leaves will absorb the fertilizer and the tree will end up burning itself. It's best to fertilize in the spring before defoliation. Finally, when should you not defoliate a tree? If the tree is young and newly planted, it's best to hold off on defoliation for at least a year. Newly planted trees need all the leaves they can get to photosynthesize and grow a strong root system. Once the roots are established, then it's fine to do defoliation. Also, if the tree is grafted, never defoliate it. I can't say it any more clearly than that. Don't defoliate a grafted tree. The graft will pop and the tree will die. Defoliation is a great tool to have in your pruning arsenal. Just be careful and don't do it too often. 1 time every 2 to 3 years is plenty. The most important thing to remember is that not all trees can tolerate defoliation. It all depends on the species. Make sure you do your research and know what you're getting yourself into before you start pruning off all the leaves. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button so the platform will recommend it to other tree lovers. Also, please subscribe because I make weekly videos about trees and other nature stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week.